Okay, so today we're talking about white balance. And after the activity that you guys went out and shot a shot of sun, shade, tungsten, tungsten balanced, and then a fluorescent shot, you're going to take those four and drop them into Photoshop so that you can sort of see a little bit of how the different colors match. And you're not going to do a color adjustment on them at all. Don't tweak them at all. Just let them come in natively and just don't do any adjustments, color adjustments to them all. Just drop them in. So what you're going to do this is after you've downloaded the file from Dropbox called WB Layers, it's a PSD file. You're going to take that from your desktop and drag it into Photoshop, and you'll see it come up with a guide and a bunch of stuff. And you'll see the text I laid out for you. It says tungsten, fluorescent, shade, and sun. And down here in the layers palette, if you look, you'll see sun, and that's the text. And then below that is a little box I've created for you guys so that you can drop all your images in. And today we're going to sort of play with the layer stacking and the layer palette and sort of the layer hierarchy and how layers work. So the first image I'm going to bring in is the image I shot under tungsten. And I have it here on my desktop. And I'm going to grab it and bring it in. And so now it's in. I'm not going to do any adjustments to it. But you'll notice up here that where it says white balance, if you shot it in RAW, you can come up here like this and you can choose all the different ones, all the different white balances that you have in your camera. So even if you screw up and shoot it wrong, like I was telling you guys, you can actually come up here and correct it. So it's sort of nice. So I'm going to leave it as shot so we can see what the temperature is supposed to look like. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the exposure a little bit because mine was a little underexposed. I did this really quick at home. Now the reason I had you guys shoot this on white paper is because I wanted to show you a trick in Photoshop and Camera Raw that you can sort of do to take color casts out. And what it is up here in the third, right by the hand up here, there's the little zoom tool, the hand, and then right there's a white balance tool. If you click on that and then select anything that was white, like the white paper that you shot all your shots on, you can click on the white paper and it'll automatically color correct your image and take the color cast out. It's awesome. It's a great tool, especially if you're not sure or familiar with color at all, and you may have thought you shot your color correctly, and then upon bringing it into Camera Raw, you realize that maybe it's a little bit off and you want to check. It's sort of a nice starting point to have just to see what Photoshop thinks. Okay, and if you don't like it, you can go back up here and go back to as shot and you have it like this. So that's just a technique I wanted to show you guys, and that's why I sort of had you shoot this on white paper, because white's sort of a constant that you can check your color cast against. So I'm going to open this image up, and it's going to appear as a tab up here. So I'm going to take my Photoshop and move it over here a little bit, the dialog box. I'm going to pop this out, and then with my move tool, which is up here at the very top left of your layers palette or your tools palette, I'm going to grab this and I'm going to just drag it in. And so you see it drug down here. Now this one, this image that I just shot with the keys right here that I'm moving around, this I shot as a tungsten balance shot, right? I shot this with a light bulb. So I'm going to come here. The first thing you're going to do when you're stacking layers in Photoshop and you're working with layers is name your layer. So we're going to call it tungsten and double click right there and type it in. And now we know this is our tungsten shot. So with our tungsten shot, it does not go in the sun area where we shot our sun shot, obviously. So we're going to take this and we're going to hold left click and pull down and drag down, and we're going to find out that our tungsten is down here. So there's our tungsten text and our tungsten box. We're going to drop it in between these two so the text is over it and the box is underneath it. And voila, there's our tungsten shot. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to shrink this down a little bit, and we're going to shrink our whole image down by hitting Command T on this tungsten little image right here that we dropped in on our image on our keys. So if I hit Command T, this dialog box comes up. Now if you just move this around, this is transform. If you just move this around like this, look, it squishes and you'll flatten your entire image. Okay, it won't maintain its proportion. So If you transform it though and come up to this corner and hold shift down and then left click and pull, you'll see that the keys maintain proportion all the way down, and I don't have to worry about them squishing and changing their shape. Anytime you screw up and you don't like what you just did, you can hit Command Z and it'll undo the last action you just did. Okay, that's what I did. So I'm going to drop this in here under tungsten. There's my keys. There's my stuff. It looks good. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this image stays in this box. And by doing that, I'm going to do what's called a clipping mask. Now this is more of an advanced technique, and I don't usually get into this until intermediate, but I sort of wanted you guys to sort of have an appreciation of it and sort of an idea of what it does. And so I'm going to introduce it just right now because this is how I set this up. So you click on your tungsten box, your image right here. You hold the Alt or Option key down, and you just find your little hand and you put it between these two images right here. And if you take your Option key and do that and click, you'll see a little square with a little arrow appears right there. And if you click on that, now this has the same little arrow, and it connects just to this little tungsten box, which means that I just made it so this tungsten image that I shot of the keys can't go anywhere outside this box. It'll have to stay inside there. I clipped it. It's called, and that's why it's called the clipping mask. Basically, you guys are going to go through and do the exact same thing with all of your images. Keep in mind the best way to do this is to name them as you bring them in. If you don't name them, you're going to start putting them in all the wrong boxes and you're going to get super confused. Okay, that's why I've set up like this, so to be organized. So let's try it with one more so you can watch another image come in. This time I've shot a lip chapstick. I was going to say lip gloss. Nope. Chapstick. I don't wear lip gloss. There's my chapstick. And again, if you want to check and see the color balance of this, you click on the third one over where it says white balance tool. Check it, and it'll color correct for you. I'm going to bring the exposure up just a little bit so we can see it. There you go. So I'm going to undo that and put this back from custom back to as shot. Okay, because I want to show the different colors that your camera's adding. I'm going to click open image. There it is. I'm going to drop my little dialog box down a little bit, and I'm going to separate this tab, pull it over here. I'm going to take the move tool and come into my chapstick shot, and I'm going to drop this into fluorescent. So I drop it in, and look, it went right into the tungsten spot. So obviously I'm going to have to move it and put it between the fluorescent text and the fluorescent box. I'm going to close that out. What am I going to do when I find this? Well, I'm going to name it fluorescent. That's the first thing you do is name your file. You guys will probably all spell fluorescent wrong. I think I did the first couple times. There's fluorescent. So I need to take this fluorescent shot and drag it up until I see the fluorescent text in the fluorescent box, and I'm going to drop it between these two. There we go. Now look, you'll notice this image takes up your whole other image also. It's going to do that until you clip it, okay? So let's clip it right now to make sure it's inside the area we want it to be, that little fluorescent box. So by clipping it, we hold Alt or Option down when we're between these two layers, right here between the image and the box, and we hold the Alt Option key down, and it turns into a square with an arrow. I left click, and now their little arrow appears and it's clipped to that box, and you'll see that my chapstick now cannot leave this box here, area here. But my chapstick is gigantic, and I need it to become smaller so it fits and looks nicer. I just don't like it like this. So I'm going to hit Command T, which is transform. I'm going to hold Shift down, and with my left click, I'm going to pull this down until my chapstick actually fits this area nicely. Right? Like that. Now my chapstick's in the area. And I'm going to hit Enter, and now it's transformed. Now the transformation is applied. So you'll see, you guys are going to do this and lay your image out with all four of your color balance shots that you shot. And then what you're going to do after you're done, and after you've dropped your shade and your sun in, and they're all fit nicely in there, you're going to Command Shift E this entire thing. So I'm going to do that right now, Command Shift E. And you'll notice all my layers flatten into one background. Then you're going to click and go Save As. And then we're going to call this MADT 206 _ color. 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 underscore Draper, or your guys' last name. And it's not going to be a JPEG. It's going to be it's not going to be a PSD. It's going to be a JPEG. And we're going to save it on our desktop, and then we're going to drag it into Dropbox. And that pretty much completes that whole exercise. Okay?